So thank you everyone for coming here and to the South Summit to invite us. So we are going to talk about the future of Web3 technology evolution and use. And here we have the panel with Ahmed Mer, Luis Pastor, and David Ortega. So if you would like you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you all for coming. I promise to make this exciting. I run Emergo Africa. We're the investment and commercial arm of the provenant layer 1 chain Cardano. Our MO is to bridge the divide between the traditional world and the crypto world. And we do this by investing. So in the last year, we've made around 40 investments in emerging markets focused on Web3 and blockchain primarily. The verticals have ranged from healthcare to payments, lending, remittance, fintech as an umbrella, agri-tech, mobility, exchanges, and payment infrastructure. And we also build a lot of solutions on Cardano for Fortune 500s, financial institutions. We advise governments on Web2 to Web3 migration, as well as startups. I'll stop there.
Good afternoon, everyone. Luis Pastor. I'm the Vice President of Alastria. Alastria is one of the oldest, largest organizations in blockchain. It was founded back in 2017. And ideally, we wanted to create different blockchain networks and one that could link the public sector with the private sector, just to develop any kind of use cases with a layer of digital identity. We have been developing that for quite a few years. Now we have around 500 members of Alastria, and has been the inspiration for instance, European blockchain services infrastructure, which is European, obviously, and in NATBA in Latin America. Besides that, I've been working in consulting for a long time and in the space 10 years, and now funding a new group in crypto Web3 with venture builder, venture capital, and an investment fund.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Ortega. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of Bit2Me. And Bit2Me is basically, well, we started as an exchange of crypto, and we have soon growth as more or less like a fintech in which we do primary and secondary market for crypto, and also we do consultancy services in order to bring crypto to anyone that needs it. And, well, that's it, basically.
So I'm Silvia. Today I'm moderating this panel. I'm the founder of Blockchain Marketing Boutique. We help Web2 companies to enter to Web3 with Web 2.5 solutions, with strategy and execution. Also Web3 companies to grow their community or with a strategy. So let's go for the first question. So imagine that we live in a world that everything is transparent and the transactions don't have any hiding fees. So I would like to ask you, why is blockchain technology so relevant for the future? What is the power of cryptocurrency?
So I'll start. I'll just start with some figures with you guys. So by 2030, close to 230 million jobs will require digital skills in Africa. That's a pretty sizable number. I believe it's like $130 billion opportunity. Add to that, 2.7 billion people globally don't have access to internet, and a third of that happens to be in Africa. In Europe, 89% of people have internet penetration. So Europe is really, really up here, and then you have the Americas and Latin America, and then you have Africa at the bottom at 40%. So the reason why we're in Africa and the prominent emerging markets is because blockchain really has the power to create a lot of leapfrogging in terms of creating institutions, creating digital identities, creating and preserving wealth, and bridging that divide between the developed and the developing world. So that's, in a nutshell, what I believe the power of blockchain is.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Well, as I said, I've been in the space for quite a while. When I think about blockchain, and I've been always a dreamer in terms of the possibilities of this technology, finally I see the reality when it comes to financial products in terms of decentralization, DeFi, and that's something that I think is going to stick for a while. And finally, we'll talk about it later on, I see that the adoption will come very close to regulation, because at least here in Europe, we finally have a regulation that is not forbidding, the technology is not being stuck in innovation. And what I think is that is going to help that more and more companies, institutions, citizens use blockchain in many different ways. And especially, I think we are going to talk about it later on again, digital identity, I think, is quite relevant when it comes to the identification of parties, but also it will provide freedom to the users of these technologies to choose what they want to do with their own data. And that's something really, really relevant that we will see in the next few years to develop and evolve.
Okay, I was going to say digital identity too, but okay, we agree that it's one of the better ones. Digital identity is one of the best use cases for blockchain, for sure. And along with tokenization, basically that we can convert any active, anything in a token, in a digital asset, it's the key point to anything, because with that we can go to DeFi that you said before. We can help communities in any country to develop because they can create their own coin, their own asset, or whatever they need, and we can move economies faster than we do right now. That's the key point for me in blockchain.
So we can see that we have a lot of utilities with blockchain and possibilities to improve the system. So what is the requirements? The requirements to involve that is to have the mass adoption. So what do you think is going to be needed to this mass adoption? Maybe it's coming from regulation, CBDCs, MiCA. So what do you think?
Can I start?
Please.
Sure.
I like this one.
You like the question.
For me and for us at B2Me, one of the key points here is education, for sure. But as I see it, the stage is plenty of people and even more there. So I think we still need more education, but we are in the correct way right now. And yeah, that's the key point for me, to start getting mass adoption, education, and then creating real products that do real things. That's probably one of the paths.
I couldn't agree more with you. That's true. But also, I'd like to add that when it comes to adoption, still we see the confusion that what is happening on the crypto markets, and especially 2022 was terrible, I'll say, in terms of the hacks, the fraud, and so on. And that affected all us in terms of developing new projects and developing trust. And I think that now that we have, again, regulation, that companies are making efforts also in terms of usability to help users to be part of the technology. We are bringing many different parties within the ecosystem together. That's going to help quite a lot. And also something that is quite relevant that I'd like to mention is cybersecurity. I know the efforts that some companies are doing just to provide more comfort to anyone trying to develop their use cases using their technologies.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add something in addition to education. Really building the tools and the infrastructure for mass adoption is also a really big challenge, and especially in emerging markets, but alike in developed markets. When you have gray areas of regulation, you need a lot of consensus around people sitting around a table in order to get things through, from government to private sector players to financial institutions to payment infrastructure, so on and so forth. So facilitating the different tools and mechanisms that can help scale and create adoption is one of the really, really important things we as Emergo and Cardano really focus on. And because we've seen this huge movement of capital, and if we look at the global macro situation right now, primarily emerging markets, and some Europe included, we're looking at really high rates of inflation, really, really high rates of devaluation, shooting CPI, lack of foreign capital in a lot of these emerging markets. So the preservation of wealth is declining day after day. When you see currencies like the Naira in Nigeria, it's lost close to 200% of its value. In addition to that, you look at balance of payments and balance of trade, that's also significantly plummeted. So looking at digital currency is a solution for mitigating a lot of that risk and helping people preserve their wealth from an individual and institutional perspective is really, really solid. And that's why we're very close to launching a US-backed, Cardano-backed stablecoin called USDA. And we're really excited about that launch because we really believe that it's going to facilitate a lot of trade within Africa, but also help preserve wealth for a lot of people.
Yeah. I totally agree with all you have said. And I would like to add as well some kind of technology that allows people who are not in tech and they want to build products, so to be able to have access to this technology. So to don't, thank you, to don't have the requirement to know how to code, because I think it's another entrance barrier. So I would like to ask you as well, this week it has been a little bit hectic with the news in the industry. So the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has taken legal action against major platforms, Binance and Coinbase. So how might it impact the industry? What do you think is going to happen next?
Was anyone at Consensus this year, by any chance? Yes? I can't really see, but...
Many of them.
Yeah. Compare Consensus last year to Consensus this year. Last year, it was exciting. Everybody was really excited about crypto. There was maybe like 50,000 people there. This year, complete opposite. Maybe half of the people there, really sad. Everybody's really depressed. Nobody knows where the industry's going. A lot of people are losing their jobs. So it's a blessing and a curse. The SEC is really pushing a lot of people away from the US market. Coinbase is leaving. Ripple just got recently slapped with that fine. So a lot of people are moving to emerging markets, and that's why DMCC has emerged. That's why ADGM is really, really crypto-friendly in Abu Dhabi. Singapore is also turning a page. We're seeing a lot of African countries really think about what can this mean for our economies. So it's a tough time, but I think this really also weeds out the people who want the short-term gratification from the people who really see the value in blockchain as an infrastructure and all the additional layers of digital currencies, tokenization, et cetera, et cetera.
Difficult to say. I mean, at some point, well, I agree with Ahmed. I think that what we have been seeing over the years, not only last year, but over the years, is these ups and downs with volatility, also different risks that we had. I said with hacks, but also with frauds, and the way that the SEC in the States is moving forward is a little bit scary, and again, it's affecting everyone, not only Binance and Coinbase in this case. I'm not sure what they're trying to do, trying to find if their assets are going through the securities with the Howey test and all that. It's really confusing, but I don't know. I guess that there will be winners, and I agree with Hamed that at some point emerging markets and Europe, it could be one of the leaders, so that's what I hope in terms of moving forward and trying to embrace. We have Circle now that moved to France, and that's an interesting move. But we have other companies coming from the States, hopefully, to Europe. And we also have very good companies in Europe and in Spain that are launching interesting and very innovative products.
Okay, the main thing here is that in Europe, we can say that we are, right now, probably, leaders in regulation in terms of blockchain and crypto space with MiCA, as you may know. And that's a good thing for us, for Europe. And some players like Middle East is coming just after us. They will start probably moving some regulations in the same term of MiCA. And that's good for us. And well, as always, there are companies that are following regulations and some others that not. We at B2Me always wanted to be in the place of regulation. We are helping the regulators and so on to make the best laws that can help us and can help the countries and Europe to grow more, even if we can. That's more or less the thing.
Yeah, because decentralization is decentralization, but to have a regulation is quite neat as well, to have a quite control or quite organized world, right? To miss out this kind of stuff that is going on. as well FCX last year. So I would like to jump on another topic that we have talked before coming here in this panel. So I think it's a really cool topic. It's about digital identity and how blockchain would help on that. So do you want to share some business case that you know?
I think yours is much better than mine, but anyway, I can start
Please
and
do.
I'll let you
Yeah,
stage
go
later
for it.
on. Well, as I said, for me, the digital identity is kind of the cornerstone of everything what is coming when we are talking the future of Web3 and what is going to happen. And with this identification and this freedom that I said before, that will be provided to any users managing their credentials through different, let's say, protocols, different ways to interact with institutions, with companies, and manage their own data. That's critical. What we have been working from Alastria is around protocol that inspired also others, as I said, in Europe and in Latin America, but also we use that protocol to create consortiums before, and now companies. They are going to transform. They're going to be transformed into companies. This blockchain layer, the network, and this digital identity layer is going to help, for instance, companies go through the procurement process when they are suppliers. So one company is supplier of another, so they have to identify, and it would be much easier if they are in control of their information, their staff is in control of the information, to transfer that information in a secure manner. And there is a cool feature that some blockchains have, which is interesting and is being researched and developed over the years. It's called zero knowledge proof. It comes that you can prove something that is part of your identity. It could be anything, the funds you have in your account. It could be your age through these features. And that is going to facilitate many other things when it comes to logistics, registration, authentication, and interaction between institutions and humans, I'll say.
Cool. Thanks, Luis. So digital identity, the conversation is sort of two-pronged. One vertical is the government-related digital identity program. So about a year ago, we signed with the Ministry of Education in Ethiopia to create 5 million digital identities for public school students. That's because many don't have digital identities, but also because it mitigates fraud. When someone's records sit on chain, they're usually foolproof and they're backed. So that's something we're really excited about. I believe we're at the 1.5 million mark right now, and we're scaling this across the country. But the additional layer on top of that is it's not just digital identity, but then you can think about providing lending and financing and liquidity to the families of these 5 billion students. So let's say families of 4, that's 20 million people right there. And this can scale significantly. And we're looking at scaling this in many more African countries at the moment, and LATAM is going to come next. The other conversation around digital identity is in closed-loop systems. We're talking to a company now, as a use case, an example, that they're an investment platform, and they basically connect investors with portfolio companies or investees. So kind of like an angel list, but creating this or porting this entirely on-chain, and then creating identities for the investors and these companies alike, such that by one click on the back end, you can really understand what's exactly happening, using predictive analytics and predictive AI after that to really predict the behavior of how this investor is acting and how this portfolio company is acting, and connecting these two together can be, excuse me, really, really, really powerful tools. So I think digital identity is really just scratching the surface of so many other things that would open up a huge level of integration.
Yeah, I'm going to just add just one small example of both what you said, and it's why it's so needed for me, as I think, to have a digital identity that rules us out. And it's, for example, if you go to purchase a car, whatever, and you need a loan for that car, they will ask you for your taxes for the last 2 years, probably, and more if you are autonomous or you are freelance. And the papers that you give to them, probably they will be moving. Okay, we have GDPR, and it shouldn't be like that, but normally it is like that. With a digital identity, you don't need to give them the information of what you are making or whatever. They just need to know, to have the contact to your bank with a smart contract, and the smart contract just will give to them if you can pay the loan or not. That's the only thing that they need to know to give you the loan. And that's the real strong part of digital identity. That's the point.
That would help a lot with privacy. Another case that we have as well is education, right? For all the studies that we have to can tell people that they are right, no? That they are not fake. So yeah, blockchain has a lot of solutions, and I know that this panelist has more that have worked in more industries and have worked in more solutions. So we would like to share with us some other kind of topics that we didn't share yet. For example, climate, immigration.
Yep, David, you want to take this one?
Okay. Yeah. For example, one of the products that we have helped develop in the last years, it's one project that you may have know them in this South Summit, is Climate Trade. It's one of the projects that they are doing great job in fighting climate change through carbon credits and a marketplace. And that's one of the examples that I like to put in the table, because it's one of the success cases on tokenization, how you can manage tokenization really easily and make them worth more than it was before. That's one of the examples for instance.
Yeah, and while we're on climate, I'm personally also really invested and really personally passionate about climate reversal or climate change. And using blockchain really simplifies it because it immediately creates transparency and privacy. And the reason why blockchain is super successful and easy with climate change is because it creates transparency in the term MRV, so monitoring, reporting, and verification. And then the cool thing is, on top of that, you can add a DeFi layer whereby you can invest via DeFi funds in climate change products for a pretty solid return. So the challenge with climate change is the fact that it's not really monetizable, but that makes it monetizable. And I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to start seeing a lot of products like this that can really scale globally. And this COP28 this year in Abu Dhabi, I think is going to witness a couple of really cool solutions like that.
So we have 2 minutes each, so we can wrap up now. So I would like you to take a moment to think about the future. And in one sentence, how you envision the future of blockchain in 2030, 2040, 2050? Wow.
Well, for me, it's a little bit more than a sentence, but we can try in 30 seconds each, I think. Well, for me, I think the future in the few years from now, it's tokenization, but not only tokenize everything, but everything, as we have been talking about the climate or whatever. It's also what is called securities that you may have heard. It's what they are saying in the SEC in the United States that these companies can do. So this is the future right now, going to tokenize everything in the TradFi, we say the traditional finance world will be tokenized and will be easier to move in terms of how we get to the people and how we do things. That's the point. And that comes with regulation, obviously, because it can be the other way.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I think that we won't talk about blockchain in 2030, 2040, 2050, because we will be part of our lives. And that would be like people use the internet and don't talk much about it. And that could happen easily. Probably we have already this economy of tokens. We already have our identities. We're able to identify ourselves with these benefits that we told you before. And at some point, I'll say that when it comes to this global economy with this, hopefully, fairness that I always thought that blockchain will bring, I hope that we'll be there.
I think the future is very bright. I think blockchain as a technology has the real ability to bring together, like David was saying, TradFi with the traditional finance, with the next gen 2.0 finance. But it's not just in finance, it's everywhere. It's in mobility, it's in healthcare accessibility, it's in data, it's really across the board. So really bridging the divide and blockchain being a tool to bridge that, I think is very, very good for the future.
That's great. So blockchain has came to stay, right? So thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you, Luis and David.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
all of you to be here, and thank you.